So we will have the recording in progress. Awesome. So what do we have then today? As mentioned, we're going to be discussing about innovation skills. And this is very controversial. There might be here some skills that you do not agree. There might be some that there are missing and you want to share with your community team members. So we make sure to have them. Let me just hear. Very perfect. We have another introduction. And so feel free actually to bring and share those insights with you. We're going to be checking this because innovation and agility go hand in hand, especially when we are practitioners and we are on the ground facing crazy problems and we have to discover with our teams or with our client how to get through them. Hence, sometimes we rely on these skills. Something that today's session is going to make an emphasis is that actually these are skills that we can develop, that we can grow. And we are going to see that even though genetics have an impact on part of our creativity, it doesn't explain it all. The majority of our creative skills are actually harnessed and learned, giving us opportunity as leaders in your organization, in your company, even in your social environments to develop and grow them, which is the important thing. And we're going to rely on some research that has already been done just for us to kind of discuss the topic. From an educated background, okay? Just using what we already have at hand, all right? So you can expect that today we have a journey that will allow you as a leader just to kind of like think through what are some of the skills that we usually see associated to disruptive innovators. And we're gonna give you a time as a leader to think on your own, and we're going to do it all together, and you can write it down in your piece of paper by yourself, and analyze. We're just going to run through some questions for you to think, how is it going for you in those different skills, okay? And then we're going to talk punctually of some kind of like little activities that could help us introduce kind of practice and training of some innovation skills in our day. As mentioned, we're going to see some today, and these are some that are presented in the literature, but there's other research that uses other innovation skills. So feel free to hop in as practitioner and bring the other that you know of, okay? So let's kick it off. By the way, I might have kind of like a very rough voice today than my usual one because I actually came out of kind of like a chest cough miraculously like yesterday. So I was like, I gotta do this because I promised that we will have our meetup. So my excuses for the deep voice. So 5 skills of disruptive innovators. There is a very interesting book that came like some time ago. And when I say some time ago, it's 2011 already. Yeah, 10 years ago, crazy. That actually presented what were 5 skills that were kind of like characteristic across many CEOs that were cataloged as disruptive. And this was quite interesting because it was the first time that we see a research that goes and study in depth this part, right? But before we kick off this, I just want to ask you, what do you think are skills that characterizes team members or owners of companies or even clients that you have worked with that you could say, hey, those are disruptive innovators? Anyone wants to share what are some of the skills that you associate to being innovative and disruptive? Anyone feels that they want, let's see what someone is sharing here in the chat. Swimming against the current. Very interesting. Thank you, Mara. Curiosity, says Ash. Thank you so much. curiosity, right? Like if you're not curious just to see other things, how are we maybe going to find new things? Anyone else that sees any other key skill?
Could you just
I
explain what
did.
I meant by? Sorry, I'm
Huh?
gonna be short. If I what I meant by swimming against the current, Nastasha, I didn't say you have to be. I say I associate it very often with that because in the community of in the world of investors slash traders, it doesn't have to be day trading. It could be any kind of frequency of trading. There's an old saying that in most of the cases applies is buy when there's a bloodbath and sell when it's all green. That means when everybody's that's where we really will consistently make wins if you make sure you just don't have losses. Is when everybody's selling, that's when you had to buy. The thing is, it's one of those paradoxes or contradictions because if you think that way, then how are you going to make sure that you are thinking against everybody else? You have actually no real way to know if you're innovative or not, because fear is always fear and thinking about risks and your biases and all those things are always there. So it's very, very tough to look at what you're doing and what you're deciding to trade from the outside.
All right. Okay. But interesting image also that you bring, right? So Aga is also mentioning actually courage, right? Acceptance and readiness for making mistakes and failure. Aga, do you want to share a little bit more? Why courage? Why a very interesting word that you're bringing? Would you like to share? Because I know that maybe just let us know if you want to share a little bit more about that.
Just like Mario said, it's swimming against the current. So it's doing something and thinking and taking some actions against to what is popular very often right now, to what your friends say, to what your peers are advising to you. So there must be a bit like large bit of courage and self-esteem.
Because it does take courage sometimes if you're in a new organization or in an established market to come with a new idea, right? Because we want to be accepted, but maybe the idea that we bring is unusual to the organization or to the market that we're in. And it does, as you guys are mentioning, takes just that little courage of saying, I am going to speak up and share this idea. Okay, so cool. Let's actually keep that in mind.
I would like also to add something, and I think yeah, innovation actually for me it's very very connected and correlated to competitiveness. I guess so. Everybody has actually the need personally and as a company, I guess, to compete and to be innovative. So probably, yeah, it's coming from there as well, I think. So it's not a skill, actually, it's a kind of need which we have. Yeah, I just wanted to add it, yeah.
All right, so very interesting also that you're mentioning that nowadays is not kind of like a good add-on or skill to think about, but it has become a need. Yes. So let's actually have that in mind, because this is partly what is motivating this session, because many of us are professionals that we are working in organizations, and what we're seeing as peers is the constant urgency of how do we innovate for the organization. Or if you're a business owner, you are living the urgency right now of you have to innovate to survive, right? So thank you very much for bringing it. Okay.
No problem.
Perfect. So let's then start with some ideas here. So very interesting, Jeff Dyer, he's kind of like co-author of the Innovator DNA with Professor Kirstensen in the area. And he actually has this very interesting talk about mastering innovation. But he has a quote there that says, you have more creative capacity than you think. And I brought this because the point that he makes is that recent research shows that around 1/3 of what we call creative capacity actually comes from our genetic composition, from our genetic background, okay? Which means that around 2/3 of that creative capacity is developed or learned by us as individuals. And he makes an emphasis on this quote because he thinks that many of us are biased to think that we are not creative. You know, I'm more of a logical person. I'm not that creative. And it turns out that creativity is not only about the image of the brilliant artist or the brilliant inventor, okay? Creativity involves many things. And one of those things are kind of like the capacity to associate different concepts, okay? And association actually doesn't operate in a silo. It's something that comes as the outcome of maybe us exercising key skills. And this is why it's so interesting, this approach of the skill. Although Dimitrios, what you bring to light, it's very true. It's kind of like, yeah, it's a skill, but driven by a need, right? Like everyone needs it, kind of thing. So he's kind of like, his proposal is, look, associational thinking, which is what actually is creative capacity, it's made of some skills. And those skills are questioning, experimenting, observing, networking, okay? Those 4 skills. And they allow you then to develop associations, okay? So this is very interesting because from here is that it starts the idea that actually by working on these areas in an intentional way, we are developing our creative capacity, okay? And that's already, I don't know, what do you guys think of this? For me, to let you know, it was quite empowering because it made me think, well, what if I just start understanding what this questioning, experimenting, or observing, networking, and associating means? It's not going to solve for sure the whole thing, but by the way, I wasn't doing it in an intentional way. Maybe it can bring me some value to be more structured in my approach. Okay, so Ash is sharing their very scientific. Yeah, I will share with you then also, Ash, the research papers in the meetup as link. It's very interesting. Okay, and so this is kind of the approach that he starts bringing. Okay, so let's learn a little bit more about it. Okay, so you will find in detail about each of these skills also in what we call the Innovator's DNA book, which is super interesting, but it has become more than a book, to be honest. Currently, there is a very interesting initiative that is called the Innovators Accelerator, and is led by these professors, and they support different corporate organizations and their executive leaders. And basically, it's just to give them a space to train themselves into these skills. And it has worked fantastic. It has helped a lot of the executive just move themselves from being maybe too delivery driven to being more discovery or innovative driven. And we're going to see more about this in just a second. But let's understand the model, because until now, what we have come to start exploring is the fact that creative capacity is all about associational thinking. And when we talk about associational thinking, it seems that we can nurturing through 4 skills. That's what we've come. But let's see what's the model, because after all, we can destroy models, as all our members of our community always say, yeah, models, but let's see what's behind it so you guys can, destroy it and find the weaknesses. So if we were to put kind of like the innovators DNA hypothesis or whatever, and what they're proposing kind of like in a graphical way, it would look like this. And this is not something that, by the way, I created. They present the hypothesis themselves like this. Yeah. So what they say is like, usually all of you as innovators in your organization, there's kind of like three things, right? That help you really create innovations in the different types that there are. There's process innovations, product innovations, service innovations, experience innovation. There's many types of innovation. We're not going to talk about here the type of innovation. We talked about it in another meetup. I'm more than happy to give you access to the link and you can check it out yourself. But basically, you go through a journey, right? And many of you already mentioned it at the beginning. One that has to do with the courage to innovate. And many times that means understanding the status quo, which is very hard for some people. For me, it's very hard. For some people, it's very easy. They figure out the status quo very fast, okay? Then question it, because some of us then, after a time we figure out, this is the status quo. And we go about it. But some people actually figure it out and then say, maybe this can be done better, right? So challenging the status quo. And then taking risks, right? So when you talk about the courage to innovate, these authors say it takes the ability to identify what the status quo is and think of ways in which it can be improved, and also taking risks. The second part is the behavioral, and it comes from the study, right? If we want to build creative capacity, we have to generate a cognitive skill that's called associational thinking. And what research shows and psychological studies show is that can be harnessed only when leaders are exposed to moments in which they can question, they can observe, they can network, and they can experiment. I want you to take a minute as a leader right now in your organization with all the urgencies that you face every day to think if you have time to do these key things. It's very funny because sometimes we ask our leaders to innovate, but we don't give them time to question, to observe, to network, to experiment. So that's also already something there to, think about. Do I have that time? If in my organization they request this, am I given this time? Yes. Or if I am the CEO of the organization and I'm asking for my team members to innovate, am I given time for this? Or if I'm starting a company in my startup from the beginning, am I giving them a space for this? So things for us to think about, because it's very interesting, this like psychological approach, right? And as you see, the other part is what we call the cognitive skill, which at the end is associational thinking. And from there is that sometimes we generate not only innovative business ideas, okay, but sometimes they are like processes that generates efficiencies that are generated. We're going to see that there's different type of innovators, and they are innovators, okay? So what do you think about this? Isn't this interesting how this is structured to approach the generation of innovation? Anyone wants to share any idea or any thoughts that emerges? If not, I want you to keep it, because you're going to have a World Cafe in just 2 minutes, and you're going to have a chance to share your insights, okay?
Out of interest, Nastasha.
Yes.
These results have been based on whom? People who have succeeded, or also innovators who have failed?
Great. In general, so it's a sample of CEO, top executive, business managers, and functional managers that have generated innovations or not, okay? But they all had something in common. They were all in the typical hierarchies associated to the generation of process, business model, products, etc. And what happened is that after the sample was more like 55,000 of them, and then they kind of like cluster, and the ones that were more innovative have some skills that the other ones that were less innovative didn't, okay? So yes, it was not only about the successful cases because I generate bias, it was just in general a sample, okay?
Thanks.
No, a pleasure. Now, the very interesting thing about this is that even, having those skills that we mentioned allows us to start seeing that as leaders, some of us might be more discovery driven and some of us might be more delivery driven, okay? And even there's some of you that are gonna be right in the middle, are gonna be called developers. And guess what? Each of you are super relevant for the organization, okay? And it is important for us to understand our profile in case that we want to nurture it in a different way. For example, you might be very delivery driven, but you want to nurture your profile to be more discovery driven, okay? Or you might be very discovery driven and you actually want to become more delivery driven. And you can ask yourself, why should I care about this, Nastasia? Here, the second interesting finding, not only what makes associational thinking, but actually it turns out that those founders at innovative companies tend to be more discovery driven. Here, where you see the triangle, see triangle, founder CEOs at innovative company. So people that are highly innovative tend to be driven a lot by discovery. I discover things by networking, by questioning, by observing. Yes, they are very driven. While those that we have that are very focused on really just getting the thing done, right? Like getting across, which is very important too. Yes, they are more focused on delivery. And delivery skills means that they're focused on analyzing, they're focused on planning, they're focused on the detail orientation, they're focused on being self-disciplined, which is important and great. The interesting thing though, is that given these profiles, sometimes the organization has to watch out. Why? Usually when you're in the life cycle in which you are a startup, yes, you're gonna be needing teams that are very driven by discovery skills, okay? Because you're starting to organize yourself. You really have to do it quickly. So you have to be able to question, network, do stuff and create stuff and experiment very fast. But it turns out that maybe when you're already kind of what we call an organization that is in a mature stage, there, what will maybe be more important is delivery to organize the things, because you need just to make sure that all your markets and customers are satisfied. So this is very interesting too, because it allows us to understand that your profile as innovator, given your life stage, because your profile will change with your life stage and with your preference, might even fit better with some organizations. So this is why I wanted to make this point. As an innovator right now, all of you have a profile, okay? And it will change as you develop and depending your stages and preference. And that will make some organizations fit better with you and others to be a little bit, more, hard to fit. So it is important for you as innovators to understand and explore, what is my profile right now? Am I more discovery skills driven? Am I more delivery driven? Or am I in that uncomfy situation of being in the balance, which I call, and it's very funny. Let me share with you something personal, because I love my community and I have no problem. Look at this case. It's my case. I'm right here. I'm one of those that is in the middle, what you call a developer. And until I did this, I wasn't like fully, I didn't never understand why is it that I love so much organizations that you have to kind of like create from scratch, right? All my family is like, but why do you always are picking organizations that are in transition, that are in transformation, that, well, it turns out that I'm someone that loves to be the bridge between the innovators and the ones that are delivering. And the organizations that usually need people to be a bridge between those are those that are at growth or scaling, yes, that are going from a startup to kind of like scale. Hence, very interesting to kind of like explore what is my profile, because sometimes it tells you a lot of the organization that you picked, okay? So worth having in mind, yeah, this part that I mentioned. Awesome. What do you think about that? Isn't that funny or interesting, yeah? All right, awesome. So let's actually do some interesting thing, and then we'll go to the World Cafe. I will give you just a link right now because you have a chance to share with each other. I'm going to very briefly mention to you several things, and I want you to grab a pen and a paper, or if you fancy and you have your phone or you have your laptop, you can just write it there. Okay, but basically, I am going to very quickly give you some statements, okay? And I want you to put 1 if you strongly disagree with the statement is 1. And if you strongly agree is 5, okay? So that's the 2. If you somewhat disagree is 2. If you are indifferent, I don't agree with this, really, neither agree, neither disagree, you put a 3. And 4, if you somewhat agree, okay? So that's the scale. 1, strongly disagree. 2, somewhat disagree. 3, I'm indifferent, yeah. 4, somewhat agree, and 5, strongly agree. This is going to allow you to explore a little your discovery or delivery driven profile. Are you ready for it? Yes. Can I have a little reaction there? Is anyone ready in the chat? Are we ready?
Yeah.
Let's see what's going on here. All right, by the way, I'm looking for the innovators and the delivery people. I'm great as a bridge. Here we go. Okay, so first statement. Frequently, my ideas or perspective diverge radically from other perspective. Silently, you go and put your number. Second statement. I am very careful to avoid making any mistakes in my work. Okay. Third statement. I regularly ask questions that challenge the status quo. Okay. Fourth one. I am extremely well organized at work. Also, don't overthink it. What is your gut telling you? That your stomach telling you about that. The next one, the fifth one. New ideas often come to me when I am directly observing how people interact with products, services, things. Ideas come to you as you see others. As simple as that. The next one, okay, which is the sixth one. I must have everything finished just right when completing a work assignment. You like your things just right. 7, I often find solutions to problems by drawing on solutions or ideas developed in other industries, fields, or disciplines. Okay. 8th, I never jump into new projects and ventures and act quickly without carefully thinking through all of the issues. 9th, I frequently experiment to create new ways of doing things. 10th, and this is half the way, I always follow through to complete a task, no matter what the obstacle. 11, I regularly talk with a diverse set of people to find and refine new ideas. You love to do that. 12, I excel at breaking down a goal or plan into the micro task required to achieve it. 13, I attend conference to meet new people and understand what issues they're facing. It can be conference, meetups, yes, other things, just to let you. 14, I pay careful attention to details at work to ensure that nothing is overlooked. 15, I actively think to identify emerging trends by reading books, articles, magazines, blogs, everything that comes your way. You go and you read it. Put your number. 16, I hold myself and others strictly accountable to getting results. 17, and we're coming to the last ones, just to let you know. I frequently ask what if questions that provoke exploration of new possibilities and frontiers. 18th, I consistently follow through on all commitments and finish what I started. 19, I regularly observe the activities of customers, suppliers, and other organizations or team members to get new ideas. 20, and final one, I consistently create detailed plans to get the work done. Okay? Hopefully you have your 20 numbers that you've put. And here, a personal thing for you, okay? So if you score between 45 or above, okay, you're very high on delivery skills, okay? If you score between 40 and 45, you are high on delivery skills too. Not very high, but high, okay? If you score between 35 and 40, okay, then you are, sorry, let me see here. Yes, so if you score between 35 to 40, let me see here. Wait a second here, guys, sorry. My excuses, I did something here. You have to, from the 20 statements that I gave you, okay, you have to add the odd numbers. So for example, 1, 3, 5, 7, okay, 9. I will send you anyways the digital one that does it automatically, but just for you to have, okay. But if you add the odd numbers and you are above 45, you are very driven by discovery skills, okay? And if you're from 40 to 45, you are high. And if you're under 40, you're moderate in your discovery skill. And if you add the even numbers, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on, and it gives you 45, okay, then you're very high on delivery skills. If it gives you between 40 and 45, you're high. And if it gives you under 40, then you're moderate load, okay? The interesting thing is comparing how much you have in your odd numbers, which is your discovery skills, and how much you have in your even number, which are what we call your delivery skills. And you will see that maybe some of you have a higher number associated to your odd numbers, which means that you're very discovery driven, while some of you have a lot in what we call your even numbers, which is your delivery skills, okay? So yes, some of you, they're sharing yes, yes, all right. So, and maybe one of you is in the middle, and then you're a developer, just to let you know, don't worry. If you have them kind of balanced, you are what we call a developer. And that means that you kind of like create consistent values to organizations and teams by connecting our highly innovative team members and our highly delivery driven team members. So you're kind of a bridge, okay? So very interesting. With that, I'm actually, if everyone it's okay, going to allow you then to have a little exercise that I prepared for you that hopefully it will get you fire up in that sense. So this is a link. I'm going to put it right here in the chat to your mural. Okay. So here you go. I don't know, has anyone used before mural? Or is anyone's first time using mural?
Yeah, it's first time actually for me.
Don't worry, we're here actually to learn all together tools because these help us with our facilitations, with our team engagement. So I'm going to introduce you in just a second. What I'll need for those that have used it before and are using it for the first time, you just click on it, okay?
It's like the Miro board actually, I guess.
It's like the mural board. That's all right. And let me just share with you. So Mural is one of these current Canvas tools, online platforms that teams have to collaborate, okay? Different from Miro, what it has is that it has single blocks, okay? So it allows people to, by simply double clicking, creating immediately the posting. And also it allows you to kind of like zoom in and zoom out with your trackpad. So you can play around. On the side, you also have kind of like a little hand that allows you to grab the mural and move it around, okay? Right here in the little hand. You can put it also as an arrow, and then it allows you to point out things. Finally, the interesting thing about this mural is that it allows for team member to access figures or post-its or images, okay? All on the side. All right, so basically you would just click on something and kind of like bring it there and then make it bigger or smaller. That's it. It's a collaboration tool. Okay, so what are we gonna do right here very briefly, okay, is we're gonna take just top 4 minutes, okay, just to let you know it's gonna be very brief. And you're gonna I'm going to break you into rooms. And what I want you just to share, because this is your time as a leader to think and have your space for you, share with each other. As we went through the statements, what happened? What did you discover? Is there something that you discover? Is there anything that you want to share? What came to your mind as we went through? Okay. So as I mentioned, I'm going to break you very briefly just into into your breakout rooms, and 3 breakout rooms very quickly for you to discuss and do get to know each other, because one of the most important things about this meetup is the connections that you build with each other. Okay, think where did you end up? More in the discovery skills, more in the delivery skills, more in the middle? How did it go for you? Okay, or if you don't want to share your profile because that's personal, what did you learn new when we went through those statements? Okay, so I'm gonna also hop in your rooms, okay, just to let you know. And I'm going to create, I'm just going to create 2 rooms actually, so you guys have a good discussion, okay? And I'm going to also time it then very briefly here, okay? And do let each other just share some ideas, okay? Here we go. Opening rooms, meet each other, share your ideas, okay? How did this exercise go for you? What is something new that you learn about yourself? Okay, you should have received an invitation. If you click on it, it will take you to what we call a breakout room, okay? You will have another members of the community in which you can have more of an intimate talk with them. Okay. Shashi, let me know if you were able to receive the invitation. Okay, perfect. So we have members of the community just getting to know each other at the moment. Okay. Let's begin the skill building. Okay. Let's check out these rooms and see how it's going. Let's join room number 1.
Yes.
Yeah, sorry.
Maybe we can talk to the team. Natasha, so Dimitri has had a very good question. If delivery is being in a small team, if delivery is being
Delayed or
delayed
yes.
because of innovation.
Yeah, super interesting. Yeah, because so what happened is like sometimes you want to make sure that you don't stay too much into the questioning, into the networking, because you need to get the things. Yes, and you're right. And you will see this a lot in organizations that are more at mature stage, that they really just need to get stuff out of the door very fast, right? So yeah, there is sometimes, an awareness that has to be developed within the team and the organization of how to make the best of our skill in discovery, and when our discovery skill actually can delay us or hamper us, because every superpower has a shadow, right? So that's actually worth having in mind. So great point.
For us, because it's very technical, each person we have are very technically sort of in their field. The other person cannot really estimate what the person is going through, because there is a lot of innovation happening in engineering, let's say, that a software guy may not be able to see. That happens in then hardware. So many times you see them stuck, watching the wall and really in their own zone, and you do not know when to ask them to stop. And if you feel like, if you push them, you might be, burning them in certain way, and asking them to be creative while they are focused in delivery is very difficult, especially if the fields are a little bit in their own silos. Basically, you have to really start combining these wheels to make the engine work. And that's where this, I think, the developer has to evolve in this sense.
Yeah, but something very interesting, right? So we're going to see it right now. So innovation doesn't have like a timeline that is, it needs to happen. Yeah, it has some skills that enable it to happen. So that means like if those skills are able to be put into practice faster, it happens, or slower, it can happen too. So the important thing here is to understand that it doesn't have a timing. And also, in real life, right, there's times in which we do have time limitations. So it's how to better, given that time limitation, you can make use of the skills that generate a higher probability of an innovation, for example. Okay, the problem is if you're not aware of that, because then with time, with very, very short time scale, what you could have is all team members going into analysis, planning, detail orientation, and just being very self-disciplined and getting the thing done, forgetting that in that limited time span, we need some people to be doing as much questioning, observing, networking, experimenting as they can, an association, you know? So it's what's the focus of what it's being done on the timing. So that's actually something interesting for us to explore. Members of the community are, by the way, sharing different thoughts and ideas. If you want to follow on them, let's do. I'm going to move ahead for today's session just for you to have a view of the different skills and also some exercises, so you can then go ahead and enjoy your evening too. Okay? Yes, I know that I always want to keep you on your time. So let's actually start by what we mentioned, that was the cognitive skill, which is associational thinking. And to be honest, for me, that I came across this recently, like 2 years ago, it has been a big breakthrough, even how I approach my teams, how I approach the clients, how I approach the people that I work with, right? And one idea that I love actually comes from Einstein, who thinks that creative thinking is nothing else than combinatorial play, right? So different combinations. So those of you that have studied statistics have come across the combinatory theory. So it comes from that, okay? So combinatorial play. So what does this mean, right? So let's put it in more simple terms. So it's about actually connecting things. And things connecting, you can connect things linearly, or you can connect things in very crazy ways. And you can see this with kids, right? Sometimes you tell a kid, I have a baby girl, she's 18 months, and I tell her, Alex, draw a line from this point to this point, and she will do circles, not always a line, yeah? So it's actually about connecting things in wildly and different ways. And maybe this makes my idea very explicit, right? And you will be connecting ideas, objects, services, technologies, disciplines, business models. You will be just connecting different things, okay? And this is actually to create kind of like new and unusual things. So it's that idea of connecting different things to try to explore new and unusual things, okay? So you can get to work on this sometimes, but by introducing in your days as a leader, a space to think about how to do or how to explore odd combinations. And I know this is very hard, because many of you that are operational leaders or developer leaders, or that you're recruiting new people, or you have your own company, you're going to tell me, well, Nastasia, you know, I have millions of things to do, right? To just have a space for growing my creative capacity. Yes, you got to have that space. You know, you got to have that space. You got to make at least, 5 minutes while you're having your breakfast. Try one exercise, only one, okay? This is a recommendation that is given to many Harvard MBAs that are also crazy because they're in many companies, etc. During your breakfast, while you're having your bowl of cereal or your coffee, try one little thing, okay? That's already enough. One, not 3, 4, one. Try it out. So let's talk about this associational thinking, as we were saying. One idea. creating odd combinations. Pick up different things around you. I pick a book, I pick a glass, I pick a phone, right? And think, what could be created if these three things came together? Or what these three things have in common? What could be a product service that has something that is associated to these things, okay? What can these three things actually teach me or have as features that could, for example, leverage some product, some code, something that I'm working on? And yes, it's gonna be crazy because what does that have to do with what you're doing? And that's actually where you start working on training the area of your brain that thinks on connection. That's actually what we call forcing connections. So this is one little activity that you can try out. Now, it's not the only one. And I put here the image of hunter because this is basically, you can pick different of these exercises to kind of like train that associational thinking, right? So for example, you have the idea of zooming in and zooming out. You have a little problem, a little idea, a little product that you want to kind of like think more about. So what happened when you really go into detail into that problem, into the causes, what's behind it, and then you have their different exercises, like for example, the fishbone or the Ichikawa graph, which allows you to really detail what are the causes. Yeah, that's really zooming in. But then zooming really out, is this problem part of another trend of problems, of a bigger problem? So this actually allows you to then further see, how this looks in a bigger context. So zooming out actually helps you out on that too, okay? Then you have what we call Lego thinking, which is basically, well, if I break down this problem and if I could put it together again in a different way, what would happen, right? So that's what you call Lego thinking. And it's very interesting because I know sometimes as leader, you don't have time to do this, but it's one very easy way sometimes to find new ideas for a problem, a situation, or even sometimes a product, okay? Typical for those of you that are very into the product side, take on a different persona. We usually have colleagues that work in product and are amazing at this because they say, well, what if we think of a different persona about this? Then we could learn this, right? They're able to change their hats. That doesn't mean that you cannot do it. Try it out too. Even if you're a business owner, think of other customer segments that you could target for your product and how they could see what you're offering. What are the downsides that they could see, the things that they would like, the things that they would think they could explore, the things that would be surprising for them, the things that would be common, that would be different, that will be standard. So ask yourself the things that they would like to reduce, the things that they would like to add, the things that they would like to explore further. Ask yourself those type of questions. Very interesting activity too. Generate metaphors. You have a problem that you're facing. What could be the metaphor that describes it? Okay. And that already tells you a lot of the problem and ways that maybe you could tackle it. If it's that metaphor, then how could you tackle that metaphor? How could you play around with that? So those are things. The other thing that's very interesting is this tactic of having a curiosity box, right? Which is, and nowadays, you have your phone, and many of you might have written yourself some notes like, I would like to explore this. I would like to learn more about this. I would like to search this. I would like to ask this, and have them then, and this is your curiosity box for you to explore as a leader, new things that you would like to see how they play out on a problem that you have, on a product that you're thinking on a relationship that you want to build with a team member, okay? On a new initiative that you want to bring to your company. Then you have this very structured approach. Sometimes I'm not too friend of this because this is kind of like bringing too many tools to our lifespan, but they're useful, that's the truth, which is what we call the scamper. okay? Which is the Scamper method is basically for you to think as you are approaching a problem, a product, a service, a business model, whichever is the focus of your interest in that moment, what you can substitute, and that's where the S comes from, what you could combine, and that's where the C comes from, what you could adapt, and that's where the A comes from, what you could magnify, minimize, or also modify, and you can see those three uses sometimes, and that's what the M represent. Then the P is very forced, to be very honest, and is usually what you could kind of like put to other uses. Put to other uses. That's where the P comes from, right? Just to let you know, it was very forced in this method, so it always makes me laugh. The E comes from what you could eliminate, and then finally the R is what you could rearrange, okay, or reverse. So ask yourself, how many times as a leader do you have the time to, as you're facing something, thinking, what can I substitute? What can I combine? What can I adapt? What can I reverse? What can I magnify? What can I eliminate? Sometimes we're not asking these questions. And these questions can generate lots of insights. So then there's a very key, there's the first kind of like little key insight that I want to bring, that you are very creative. The thing is, like, sometimes as leaders, you don't have kind of like the time to really nurture that creativity because you don't have the space to ask yourself questions. So do create spaces for you to ask yourself questions on the things that you're thinking and matter to you. Okay. Awesome. Candice, do you have any feedback there?
No, sorry.
Don't worry. All right, breaking silence. So the next skill is about questioning. And here I actually, everyone talks a lot about questioning. And I don't know how many of you have been in organizations that they say, oh yes, we love questions, bring the questions. We're all about questions, but someone does a question and everyone is very annoyed about it. Oh my God, this person again, are you bringing a question again? Why are you questioning? Like, we really need to get the thing done. Really?
So true. For real. Yeah.
So it's like, come on, people, let's all be honest. What we're all thinking is like, let's make some questions, but not too many questions, please. that's what everyone is kind of like really cheeky thinking, right? And you know what? Even though your colleagues might be thinking that, because you're interested in leading your day, or finding new ideas, or innovating whenever you want, because sometimes you just want to deliver, okay? But when you're in that innovation phase, question is going to be your friend. It's going to help you. And what is very interesting is that there is a structure for questions. And let me just bring you something here, because I'm kind of like a little bookworm, but I love it. I've come to accept myself. And there is a book that usually they don't even give it in business schools, and I don't understand why. And it's super fundamental. I work with some founders, and the best founders and CEOs that I work with, they are great at questioning. And the book is called Questions Are the Answer. It's by Hal Gregersen. It's fantastic. If you can invest, like 2 hours of your life in this, it will pay off for the years to come. And it basically gives a structure for questions. And no wonder this is something that is used in innovation, okay? And I'm going to show you right now the structure. So we have what are called what is questions, what cause questions, what if questions, why and why not questions, okay? And this is a very structured way of going with the exploration, okay? And making your questions more structure on it. So look at this part. So there are questions that allow you to understand, okay, what's the territory, or what's the problem, the issue, what's the thing, okay? They're descriptive questions and they map for you. And as a leader, sometimes you need to see that. You need to map things out. Usually these questions are what is, who, what, when, where, how, what costs what, right? Now, there will be times in which you will need to rethink your product, your business, your team, your processes. And you, in that case, want to disrupt stuff, whatever it is, the territory of your problem, okay? The scope of your problem. In there, actually, the type of questions that come to help you more is what we call why not, what if, how might we do this, right? So this is very interesting because it's not just like being asking questions all around, right? It's just being clear, what is it that I'm intending? Do I want to disrupt? So if I'm actually trying to think new things, like what is the best way for you to prompt yourself and your thoughts, okay? So it's asking the right questions. So this is a very interesting and easy to grab way. There's questions that allow to describe things or the territory in which you are, and there's questions that allow you to disrupt. And some of the most interesting are those what if, why not, okay, if we try it out. So questioning, the other skill that we mentioned. So there's different also little things that you might see in the literature, and there's a lot of exercises. I just brought you here some that I use with my teams because they are very busy professionals, and at least they do these ones. So rather than having a brainstorming, a question storming. You will have fun the first time that you do this, because the first 10 minutes, everyone's going to be like, what? And you're going to have to question storming, just a question after a question, no, not ideas, questions, right? And you start thinking like, whoa. So the other part is to really foster the question thinking, which is at the beginning, when you're doing a product roadmap, a product overview, a business model, a new development, you're planning the new coding. Okay, actually give a space for, do we have, do we have any question? Is you yourself saying, what if we did this like this? Why are we doing this? Anyone can remind me? Why not do this? So lead by role modeling. Okay, so foster question thinking, not by saying it, but actually role model it, because sometimes your team members actually need to see how it's done, and you're going to help them out. The other interesting thing, I don't like this one, to be honest, but this one was given by my husband. And because he's great at discovery skills. And he says, track your question answers ratios. He loves to ask a lot because from background, he's an entrepreneur. So he asks a lot, right? And something that you will see is that when you're harnessing your discovery skills, usually your question are more than your answers, because you're asking more about things. So just be wary when you're in times in which you are given too many answers and you're not asking questions enough, because this is not allowing you maybe to get information that could be interesting for you. Okay. And finally, don't be afraid to write your questions down wherever you want to. Write those questions down and come back to them to see how you could combine them, what you can learn from them, who better to reach out to get them solved, because behind any of your questions, there might be a very interesting innovation. So great. Those were the part of the questions. We're coming to the final skills, which for those of you that are very visual, observing comes to be very natural. For those of you that are very aesthetic driven, observing also comes to be very natural. For those of you that are very introvert, observing also comes to be sometimes very natural. And observing is all about harnessing your curiosity and appreciation for what it's around you, people, processes, environment. Some of you are voracious observers, okay? And I think at the beginning of the session, someone said curiosity, already someone with that capability, okay? So what we have here is that the interesting thing about this framework of the innovation skills is that it actually also structures the the observation. And what it says is like highly innovative people are asking themselves when they look at things, what is the job that that thing does? So what is it that the phone that we use is hired for? Okay, what is it really that is hard for? Like for us to be able to communicate with our loved ones, for us to, what is really the job that a headphone has? You know, why do we hire a headphone, right? By paying for it. So basically what it tries to promote or to foster is yes, what it tries to generate is for leaders to actually think of things as things that are being hired, right? So the call for action is, as a leader, think as you observe, what is that thing hired for? What is the job that they do? Really, really, what is it that they do? And this can get to be very interesting when you think about process. Many of you have been in organizations that you're trying to change the process and you cannot, right? And you're like, well, but why, if we know that all of these benefits could be brought if we change this or that? Why is it? Think about why is that process still there? Why was it hired to do? What's really keeping it there? And sometimes when you really find what's the job that that process does for X or Y key stakeholders in the organization, is that you can start really understanding how you can bring innovation, right? What is it, an alternative job that you can do that satisfy that is that current process being hired for, plus improves it, right? So the call for action in observing is, yes, as you observe and analyze things, ask your question, ask yourself a key question. It's like, what's the job that that thing does? Okay. The second question is kind of identifying if there's a workaround for the thing that you are observing, right? So I'm hiring the phone to actually, bring intimate connection with my mom that is in Venezuela. This is why I am actually, that's the job that this phone does. But what's the workaround? Well, maybe not the phone, but maybe the email also allows me to send, some message from my mom, and that's a workaround. It's not the optimal one. It's not the one that I like the most. I like to hear her voice, but guess what? It can do the job too of connecting me with her in an intimate way, because it will be the two of us only writing with each other. Not the same, not the best, but it's a workaround. So think of in your product, your service, in your customer, what are those jobs that you could do for them? What are the workarounds? Okay. So those are the things that usually innovators are very keen to think and to explore as they are in their organizations, in their teams, or out in the market. Okay. Perfect. Then observing, key skill there. Let's go here. This is my canvas playing a trick on us. The final one that I want to bring you, and this always reminds me of the CEO of Salesforce, is the networking skill, which is actually opening to other people, but not how sometimes the networking is done nowadays. So let me explain, because in many business schools we hear, gotta go network. Yeah. So let's see how innovators network. Okay. So I wanted to bring you this. It's very funny. And it's about networking. And it's basically what you see in discovery-driven executives or leaders that are very fast, that are keen to innovate like you, is that they actually like to network with others for ideas. Let's think about it. Why are you at 7:57 p.m. London time, I'm not going to talk about other people's time, thinking about innovation skills? Because you're hungry for idea. Okay, you're a hungry person for idea. Okay, now usually what happens is that innovators are this way. They are hungry for ideas. They want to learn, they want to understand, they want to meet others, they want to they're annoying. They want to learn everything. They want to connect. This is the way. So they network actually to get new ideas, okay? Learn new things, surprise themselves, actually question the things that they have, test stuff, okay? Gain new perspective. This is what drives their networking, okay? And as you see, they're usually actually very keen to target people who are not like them, who are not experts necessarily. They also like just to talk with people that are just different, from different backgrounds and perspective. And this is very different from what we call delivery-driven networking, which has also space, is important, okay? It's also important, but it's different from the innovation-driven networking. In this other case, what you're seeing is that when you're in this mode, you will be more focused on maybe networking with some team members or people, because you want to talk about resources, you want to position your product, your idea, your company, okay? You want to explore how to progress your career, okay? And in this case, you're going to be networking with people who are more like you, who are more, who have some of the things that you're looking for, okay? So both of them are relevant, but just to let you know, what we see in discovery-driven innovators, especially because they're trying to create new things, is that they network mainly for ideas. So if you're trying to leverage or to grow your networking skills as an innovator, try out, do this, go to your meetups, talk with new people that are different, ask about the things that you're trying to explore, your product ideas, get those ideas for you, okay? Then the final skill, it's the experimenting skill, and this might be the most hard for some and the most easy for others, because it is actually about prototyping stuff, okay? It's about putting things together in the most sophisticated way, all right? As an initial step, experimenting is also about trying new experiences, trying new things, okay, and exploring if it's useful or not, trying a new product, trying a new business model, trying a new process in a timed manner, okay? Sometimes it's also about taking things apart, your own product, taking it apart, changing some of the things. Your service could be the same. The way your team process work is about taking things apart also sometimes. But ultimately, it comes to be more useful, and you see it in the case of Amazon, which are constantly actually testing through the pilots and prototypes that they have. It's by actually doing that, putting little prototypes together and seeing in real life how the customers respond to your prototype, or your team members respond to your new processes, or your market respond to your new value proposition, for example, okay? So this is ultimately one of the key skills of innovators. We see it nowadays that in organizations it's more common, but still sometimes it's a struggle to put the experiments together, okay? But just to let you know, if you're key on harnessing further your associational thinking, experimenting could be very interesting for you, especially if there's a space in your organization or in your own business or in your teams for you to be able to create little pilots and prototypes, okay? Awesome. So any thoughts, any ideas? All right. Let's see what happened here in the chat. Yes, is an MVP experimenting? Hell yeah. Definitely, Ash. And also building a proof of concept, yes, is also a way. It's before your MVP, but it's also helping a lot. So definitely. All right, before you go, and you can have this as a private, I want to show you 3 exercises. Have it in your mind, and you don't have to share with us what will happen, but I did wanted to prompt you. So check out this image, right? And this is just an example of an exercise. Yeah. So imagine if I give you a minute, okay, and I tell you, write down as many creative uses that you could do of this image, what will you write down? This is one exercise to actually, for example, build on your associational thinking, all right? I will leave this open for you, the mural, by the way, you have it available. Another question that I have for you, okay? In the case of this image, which is a sun clock, what could be a provocative question, something different that you could ask about it? Anyone wants to share? What could be a question different that you could make about a sun clock? Any ideas? Let's see there.
I have one.
Uh-huh.
For which cooking recipes can this object be of use?
Uh-huh. Pretty good, Mario. Yeah, but you gotta be very fast with some cooking recipes. Well, it depends on the clock, right?
Yeah, and I actually had one in some other context where I was forced to use it for a different thing, but that made me think of the question now is, for catching which type of animals or insects can I use this object?
Uh-huh. And you'll be like,
You'd be surprised how
oh,
useful it is with insects.
so I didn't know of the one of the insects. I'm gonna go now and think out what could be that caught up with that. And then look at this case too. I put it here, and this is just really just for you to have some exposure, right? And to just walk out with the idea that you can just train yourself with little things, right? So look at these images, and what do you think? It's similar in both of them. Okay, you can keep it to yourself, but think about it. You know, what is similar there? What is different there? But then, you know, look again. What is happening? What actually explains the similarities and the differences? So the interesting thing about this exercise is that it brings into light this key thing that we talked about of zooming in and zooming out, right? And also of trying to spot kind of like trends, but also of trying to describe what causes what, for example, in this. But you could then go more disruptive. Yeah, what if this was different in this part? Yes, what could happen there, for example? So these are just little examples, once again, to just bring the idea that there's key skills that seem to be associated to innovative, to innovation, okay? We saw that there are some behavioral skills that allow that. We saw that there are some cognitive skills also that leverage that. And we saw that there seems to be things that we can grow, we can nurture, and we can develop. So, you know, if you are in your journey to be an innovator, just try it out. What can you lose if you try out to improve yourself? Be better. Go for it. All right, community. So I will share with you the presentation. Let me just actually send to you the link. Also, this link is usually available just for the team members of the community. If you have any thoughts or any ideas, please, that, you know, all of us think differently and at different pace. If you have any key thoughts, share it there in the as a comment in the event, so the community can learn from you. Sometimes some of you digest things and then share wonderful thoughts, and that's useful for all of us that we work on this area, and this allows us to be better professional. If you have any feedback, also share it there publicly, because it helps us all. you have the mural also there just for you to kind of like check those 3 little exercises. And the call for action is like, if any of you also have experience in this area and you want to share your experience, your background, your ideas, do let me know, so you can, maybe we can set up an event and then you can share your learnings and knowledge with us and we can learn from you. Okay.
Nastas, I have a question actually. I have 2 questions. First of all, is it okay to connect with you on LinkedIn actually?
Yeah, of course. You can connect, no problem.
Excellent. And also, is it okay to share some kind of screenshots from the meetup inside LinkedIn actually as a post or something?
Okay. Yeah. So do you want me to share my LinkedIn in the meetup, or
No,
what?
I mean, is it okay to share a post that from the meetup? You know, like I took a screenshot actually.
Yeah, you can share whatever you. This is
Cool.
open. This is open community.
Yeah.
Yes. Just to
Excellent.
okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be okay actually. It's going to be very good also for the community. Yeah, I'm going to join Maru. Yeah.
All right. Sounds awesome. Great. And as I mentioned, please, if any of you have very interesting cases that you have faced in terms of innovation and agility as a professional that you want to share with us, do bring it, because we are all here. We all want to be better professional and learn from each other. Okay. Just to let you know.
Indeed. Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds great. Great, team. So any key questions, any final thoughts? If not, we conclude today's community session and looking forward to the future also with you. Any thoughts, any comments? All right.
I love the session. Thank you, Natasha, very much for your great energy and for all the knowledge that you gave to us today. Thank you.
Not a problem. I always love to have geek friends. And I say that in the community, I have a bunch.
Yeah, thank you very much. It was really valuable.
Thank you, Natasha.
No problem.
It was really
at
valuable.
all.
This.
Kisses. Enjoy your Tuesday. Take
You
care.
too.
Bye.
You too. Cheers.
Bye,
Bye,
guys.
guys.
Bye.
Bye, bye.
Bye.